Wrestling fans, don't miss the giant SICW Wrestling FanFest and Hall of Fame. Nearly 50 superstars will be on hand Saturday, May 13th at the Aviator Hotel and Ballroom, St. Louis.
On Wrestling at the Chase today.
Welcome to a very special edition of Wrestling at the Chase. Hello, I'm Larry Madison.
Luthez, Johnny Valentine, The Funks, The Briscoes, Ric Flair, Harley Race. All these names have laced up their boots and battled for St. Louis wrestling. Wounds heal, scars fade, but legendary territories live on. Forever, St. Louis was, is, and always will be professional wrestling. On May 13th, New Breed Wrestling is proud to stand with Herb Simmons and all of SICW and be a part of this gathering to celebrate the history and honor of the legends of the past who have bled and have given us so many memories. But on the evening of May 13th at the Aviator Hotel, a new generation of men gathered to make their own name in St. Louis. Dr. Eisen, Attila, Curtis Wilde, El Diablo, Superstar Steve, Astonishing Austin. While we ring the bell to honor the past, these men will fight to secure the future. Welcome to St. Louis Wrestling.
Good evening, wrestling fans. Welcome to the brand new SICW studios. I'm joined here with promoter Herb Simmons. Herb, what a place.
Oh, what a place. It's a long time coming, and it feels good to have the new look, and I hope everybody enjoys it as much as we do.
Absolutely. It's great to have a nice professional studio like this to bring the greatest wrestling to the greatest fans.
Well, and they are. The SICW fans are the greatest ever. We say that all the time, and we keep talking about bigger and better things, and this is part of it. A new studio look every Sunday night, bringing you some great action, and that's what SICW is all about, and I'm excited about it.
Absolutely. It's going to be great, Herb, and, right here over my shoulder is a little hint of what's to come. Nothing else to talk about tonight except for 6 days away. Saturday, May 13th, the Aviator Hotel, SICW FanFest.
Well, the Aviator Hotel has been getting a lot of talk about over the last couple of months, and it's a great cause for the May 13th. There is going to be the biggest fan fest coming to St. Louis, and the fans just seem to be excited about it. The phones are ringing off the hook, and I'm excited when you look at the list of legends that we've got coming in there. It's a list next to none.
Absolutely. I mean, such a good night that the VIP first and second row seats have already sold out.
Exactly, and it's going to be an all-day event. So come early and stay late. Those doors will open at 10 o'clock in the morning. We'll have a question and answer session in the afternoon, Hall of Fame ceremony later on, and then of course a big wrestling card that night. Nothing like it has come to St. Louis.
Absolutely, and Herb, some of the legends. Let's just talk through a few of the great legends that are going to be there. I mean, the who's who of wrestling.
Yeah, it's just when you talk about the who's who, you can see there, JBL, WWE legend, will be there. Jerry Briscoe, Spike Huber, former son-in-law of Dick the Bruiser, Cowboy Bob Orton Jr., Ken Patera, the Faces of Fear, Haku and the Barbarian, Stan the Lariat Hansen, Tugboat, the Baron Von Raschke is going to be there, one of our all-time favorites, the Masked Superstar, Teddy Long and his co-host of their podcast that they do, the Road Trips After Hours. They're going to be there live. Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, Buff Bagwell, and just J.J. Dillon, Barbara Goodish, Darla Staggs. Just keeps going, over 50 of them.
The list goes on, and Herb, we talk about wrestling legends, and this is a wrestling show, so what better to do than to start tonight by looking at some of those legends in action And we do that by going back to 1983 in St. Louis, Missouri.
Great match, and I know some of you fans who've been wrestling fans forever are going to remember this one. So take a look at this right here. Going to show you this match already in progress.
Mouth together, forcing Brody to try to breathe through his nose. Now they've already been in here 15 minutes. You know you're puffing and having trouble breathing right now. Think when your mouth is being squeezed together, it not only hurts, but it's hard to breathe. And that's what Ric Flair is trying to do to Brody. Really, both have probably recognized by this point that stamina was going to be the key part of this match. Who'd break first? Who'd run out of gas first? So part of the problem right now is try to slow the guy down, try to make him breathe hard, try to take some of his stamina away. Flair right back down, squeezing that head, squeezing the cheeks together. Ric Flair leaning on him. Look where his chest is. It's into the back, the neck of King Kong Brody. Brody reaching up for the hair. Lee Warren stopped him. Flair turning that head. King Kong Brody. Able at least to get his mouth open there, but you can see how the nose is pinched off, and how the whole face is contorted by Ric Flair as the champion. Applies this. Really, it's a face lock as much as anything. There's one of the many cameras at ringside. Almost 17,000 people at the famous Checkerdome, also known as the Arena in St. Louis. Think of the history that went through that building. That was one of Sam Muchnick's first sellouts at the Arena for Buddy Rogers, wrestling Lou Thez. He had a record crowd there many years ago back in the 50s. Now it's Flair. He's the Buddy Rogers of his era with an elbow drop on King Kong Brody. Brody kicks Flair off. Flair right back to the head. Right back to the head. Squeezing, squeezing, squeezing. Brody kicking. He knows he doesn't want to be trapped down there. No matter how big, how strong, how tough you are, if you can't breathe, if you're gasping for wind, you're vulnerable. And it only takes a count of 3 to get a pin. Could be a small package, could be a front rolling cradle, could be a little sunset flip. You never know how that pin's going to come. And there once again, putting the shoulders down. You never know, you might get lucky. Look at Lee Warren right in there again. Look how his head is. Look where he is, right? Look at those shoulders. King Kong Brody struggling to keep the shoulders up as Lee Warren's right in there. And Flair hoping he can catch a lucky break. You never know when lightning will strike. Ric Flair leaning into Brody. Brody struggling to come up. A real test. A test of more than just physical skill. It's a test of who wants it. Who's got the most guts? King Kong Brody or Ric Flair? Flair staying on top of him. He's probably hooked the arm on the far side now. Yes, he has a little bit. But Brody so strong, trying to come up. The fans intent. They've not often seen King Kong Brody wrestle to the mat like Ric Flair just did. Brody trying to fight back. Flair pounding on the back. Brody pounds on the stomach. Chop again to the throat. Ric Flair, side headlock. Off the ropes comes Brody. Flying tackle levels the world champion. Over the top. Leapfrog by the world champion. Hip toss and down goes Brody. Ric Flair backing up. Coming for the elbow drop and he misses as Brody rolls away. Just when it looked like Flair had something going, Brody bounces back, avoids the flying elbow drop, and vicious kicks to the head by King Kong Brody. Brody, another boot right to the head. You think that there are cobwebs in Ric Flair's head right now. Brody going up on the ropes so he can come down and assault the world heavyweight champion. Big chop right to the top of the noggin. And Flair goes down. Flair in trouble here. He opened up the attack and now he's paying the price. He opened it up. He opened up the offense and it's Brody coming back. Oh, big forearm smash. Look at Lee Warren point. That was the forearm. Worse than the fist. That big forearm bone to the cheek. But Flair, he never quits. We all know that. Flying tackle, it doesn't work. Brody levels him. He was leaning forward so he caught him with the shoulder. Flair tries again. Walks right into it. Walks right into it. A big body slam by King Kong Brody. Oh, he lines him up. Flair, look out below. The giant flying knee drop. Flair crushed to the mat by King Kong Brody. The crowd standing. They sense it. Count of 1, 2, 3. There's the first fall. The first fall belonging to King Kong Brody. The crowd standing, screaming. Will they see the title change hands tonight? On February the 11th, 1983 at the Checkerdome. Will the title change hands tonight? Will King Kong Brody become the champion?
これを目の前で見たらですね、いかがチャンピオンでもたまりませんね。
はい。今再びリング上にラリー・マッチックリングアナウンサーが上がっています。
With a flying knee drop, the winner of the first fall, King Kong Brody.
1本目キングコングブロディが1本目を取ったというようなコールでございます。
King Kong Brody, realizing he's on the edge of realizing a dream. Could that moment be here, something he always wanted? Could Ric Flair be on the verge of defeat? Could the World Heavyweight Championship, when it still meant something, be ready to change hands? And Ric Flair going, wow, I'm in a lot of trouble. Down 1 fall to none. He's taken a tremendous giant flying knee drop, been foiled in many of the moves he tried to make. The funny thing was, at one point, Flair was in control when he was able to get Brody off his feet and wrestle him. Flair was in control there, but once he made the mistake of opening up the offense, it was Brody's offense that took charge. An interesting match as you look at it, too, because in some ways you're seeing different things than you would expect from these two people. And I think looking back to it and having talked to both Brody and Flair in intervening years, I think there was so much respect both ways between Ric Flair and King Kong Brody for what each one could do well. It almost intimidated the other man, where he held back just a little bit for fear of making a mistake, like that one where Brody ran into the knee lift right into the stomach. I think they were both afraid of making the big mistake, and maybe that slowed them up, made them a little bit more cautious than normal. Flair throwing Brody outside the ring, now grabbing him by the hair. Brody grabbing Flair's ankles. Flair afraid to let go, because if he does, he's coming outside the ring with Brody in control of his legs. We don't want that if you're Ric Flair. Flair takes Brody into the top rope, jerks it down into his throat, almost like a judo chop. And now Brody gasping for a bit of wind. Ric Flair has to win a fall. He's down 1 fall to none. He knows now the pressure's on him. The shoe is definitely on the other foot. Flair punishing the windpipe of King Kong Brody. Again, breathing, stamina becoming so important. Flair grabbing the arm. Ooh, a punch right into the short rib. Again, attacking that side, the ribs, trying to hurt Brody, where every man, no matter how strong, no matter how many muscles he has, they're vulnerable there. Brody caught in the corner by Ric Flair. Flair leaning into him, trying to stay close to him, trying to take away the size advantage that Brody has, the strength advantage. We talk about a strength advantage for King Kong Brody, sure, but let's not kid ourselves. That doesn't mean Ric Flair was weak. To the contrary, Ric Flair was a finely tuned athlete at the height of his skills right now as the World Heavyweight Champion. He hooks the arm. Basic arm lock now, trying to punish the shoulder a little bit. Can he weaken, even if it's only 5%? Even if it's only 5%, can he weaken one side of King Kong Brody, where Brody would favor it, and open up a spot where Flair could attack and perhaps get a pin to even this match at 1 fall apiece? Twisting the arm, turning the wrist, bending the hand back, anything to punish King Kong Brody. And once again here, just as in the first fall, Ric Flair, his wrestling ability coming to the forefront and creating a problem for King Kong Brody. Knee drop right into the elbow. Now, here's a story most people don't know about King Kong Brody. Probably about this point in his career was when that left elbow of Brody was actually broken. He had a hairline fracture in the elbow. He never took time off for it, because this is professional wrestling. You don't get to go on the disabled list. You don't keep making $10 million a year when you're sitting at home cutting your fingernails. You have to work if you want to make money. Brody's left elbow had a lot of punishment over the years, and by the time before he passed away in 1988, I would guess in early 87, he showed me how his left hand had basically developed what they call claw fingers. The feeling had come out of the ring finger and the little finger. He couldn't move it. And that was because of all of the punishment of wrestling. And here was Flair working on that left arm. He knew that a lot of the bumps that Brody took, because Brody was willing to take to the air with drop kicks and the giant flying knee drop, a lot of that also meant landing on that elbow pointed down there. So that elbow had to be sore and hurting. And Brody also admitted over a period of time that's obviously what caused that elbow bone to crack. He knew had he lived, he was looking at an elbow replacement somewhere probably in the early 90s. Flair pulling back on the arm, a classic double arm lock. Looks like Johnny Valentine there, doesn't he? Pulling back on that arm. Ric Flair pulling back on the arm, trying to punish King Kong Brody, and again the wrestling skill of Flair paying off for him. Brody never made any bones about it. He never considered himself a great scientific wrestler. He got by on power, brute strength, and simple will. He wasn't going to quit. He had as big a heart as anybody inside that ring. There's Flair rubbing the bone of his knee into the bone of Brody's elbow. Is that Flair's knee into Brody's elbow? Let's get that straight. Charlie Regal and Herb Simmons are keeping an eye on me here to make sure I do this right. Where's Mickey Garagiola when you need him? He's probably smoking a cigar. Ooh, look at the punishment on that arm. Look at Flair using the leverage to punish the arm of King Kong Brody. Brody stretched back. Look how the shoulders almost pulled out of the socket. Flair leaning into 245 pounds of Ric Flair. Putting tremendous punishment into that elbow of King Kong Brody. Bending backward, looking for the ropes for a little extra leverage. Did Lee Warren catch him? Yes, he did. He caught Flair using the ropes for some extra leverage. A kick into the rib by Ric Flair. Brody fighting back. Pushed to the corner, pushed to the ropes rather by Ric Flair. Flair staying in tight to him. The referee trying to separate them again. Flair leery of giving Brody too much room. He's got his arm tied over the top rope. Finally chased back. Oh no, it's Brody who has a hold of Flair's nose. Brody with a nose lock and then a forearm right across the forehead of Ric Flair. Flair fighting back. He doesn't want to lose the advantage he has. But Brody, knowing a lot's at stake here, he just gouges the eyes. No bones about it. This is a clawing, fighting, scratching moment in professional wrestling inside that Checker Dome ring. The World Heavyweight Championship at stake. King Kong Brody with the first and thus far only fall. Again, gouging the face, twisting the nose of Ric Flair. Brody knew he was getting into trouble and he was going to stop it. Clawing away at each other, knowing the stakes. He sat down and tried to figure out the payday. Let's talk about it a little bit in the book Wrestling at the Chase. We talked about the payoff Sam Muchnikov's had. The main event got 8% of the gross. So this match alone was probably worth $10,000 to $12,000 to these two men. But think how much more it was worth to be the World Heavyweight Champion. Think how much more it was worth to have 10 pounds of gold around your waist. Multiply 10,000 or 12,000 100 times, and then maybe you have the answer. Brody down on top of Flair. He was biting him. Brody tossing caution away. He knew he wasn't going to be able to wrestle with Flair. He would have to make Flair wrestle his match, which was a brawl. And here we are outside the ring. Flair trying to get away from Brody. Brody stalking him. Flair rolling back in. Can he get there? Brody bringing him back out on the floor. King Kong Brody up one fall to none, going after the World Heavyweight Championship, and he slams Flair. Flair got his shoulder up, blocking his head at least from hitting the steel ring post. Flair trying to stay away from Brody outside the ring. This is not where you want to be with King Kong Brody in no man's land outside the squared circle. Brody squeezing Flair's arms around the steel ring post, trying to punish that shoulder. He'll take advantage of any edge he can get. Flair tries to fight back, though. Brody and Flair both back inside the ring. Brody hits the ropes. Oh, a big kick to the stomach. Flair was expecting a flying tackle. Instead, he got the boot into the belly. Right into the breadbasket by King Kong Brody. And then Brody walks into a vicious elbow right underneath the chin. A knockout punch from Ric Flair. A knockout elbow from Ric Flair, and then driving the knee down across the forehead of Brody. A favorite Flair move, the knee drop to the forehead of King Kong Brody. Flair trying to follow up his advantage. They come to their feet, trying to arm whip Brody out of that corner. It's not easy. Brody reverses the whip, and Flair hits the shoulder and bicep that went into the steel ring post. And now Brody begins chopping on the shoulder and arm of Ric Flair. Any opening you get, you have to take advantage. This is for all the marbles. This is it. There's nothing higher than this that you can fight for. So you'll scratch and claw, and you'll break the rules if you have to. Whoa, knee drop missed, knee drop missed. Knee drop for Flair's head missed. Flair going for the pile driver. Flair going for the pile driver. Can he get him up? No, look at the balance that Brody has. Brody taking the leverage away from Flair, lifting. Oh, look at that dead body weight. Oh, in the neck. Think of the strength that took. Flair wasn't jumping. He was lifted by King Kong Brody with his neck and flipped over the top when Flair tried a pile driver. To the ropes goes Flair. Drop kick by King Kong Brody, a man that size, 6'5", 285 pounds. He used to weigh 320, but he trimmed down by this point in his career, knowing that speed and stamina were so important against opponents like Ric Flair. Still, what a feat to get in the air for a drop kick like that against Ric Flair. Flair with his foot on the ropes. There'll be no pin there. It's not going to be two straight falls for King Kong Brody. Brody didn't realize that Flair's foot was on the ropes. Lee Warren trying to explain it to him, and that's not the easiest thing to do. If you're inside the ring and you have almost 17,000 people screaming, it's hard to hear each other. Even if the guy's right.
Well, Herb, that was some great action, but kind of left the fans hanging a little bit, and we might get to show them a little bit more of that match later on tonight.
Oh yeah, we'll show them how it ended. Some fans probably remember, but it's always good to go back down that memory lane, and that was one great match, I can tell you.
A great match, but fans, before we continue, let's hear from a few of the great sponsors that are helping make May 13th a possibility. Wrestling fans, for all your massage needs, visit the Restorative Massage Center located inside the Sheer Techniques Salon in Troy, Illinois. Masseuse Shauna has been a licensed massage therapist for over 10 years, and she customizes each massage to meet the needs of her clients, performing Swedish deep tissue and trigger point therapy. Restorative Massage Center is a proud sponsor of the SICW FanFest on Saturday, May the 13th at the Aviator Hotel and Ballroom in St. Louis, Missouri. For all your massage needs, contact Shauna with the Restorative Massage Center. Wrestling fans, there's nothing better than barbecue and wrestling. When you're hungry, stop by Mr. Barbecue with 2 locations to serve you in Columbia and Waterloo, Illinois. Great barbecue, cold beverages, and SICW wrestling. Mr. Barbecue is a proud sponsor of the SICW FanFest coming to the St. Louis area on Saturday, May 13th. Go to SICW.org for all the information on how to purchase your tickets. Wrestling fans, are you looking for those vintage toys, those hard-to-find 70s, 80s, and 90s action figures? G.I. Joe, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Star Wars, Transformers. Look no further than Snyder Toys. They will have what you're looking for. Give Robert Snyder a call at 618-314-3266 for all your vintage toy needs. Welcome back, wrestling fans. Herb, you talked about it a little bit earlier, but let's get a little more in depth about the itinerary for May 13th, exactly what's going to happen. So as you mentioned, those doors are going to open at 10 a.m. And what can a fan do if they show up at 10 a.m.? What's available to them? 10 a.m., we're going to have a line set up for the fans who have pre-bought their tickets so they don't have to wait. And they'll be able to come inside. We'll have vendors in the lobby. Quite a few of them will be out there. They'll have some goods for sale. So, you'll be able to mill around out there with them. Be a couple of different podcast groups out there. They're going to be looking to want to interview even some of the fans. You'll have to have a wristband if you bought the FanFest, of course, a part of the package. But once you walk into those doors, you're going to see a room full of these legends and special guests. You'll be able to go in there, meet and greet with them, talk with them. Some of them will have their books that they've written over the several years now that you can purchase. If you want to get a photograph with them, you'll be able to do that. So it's just going to be great. Somewhere around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we'll have a little question and answer session.
with some of the legends there. The fans will get to interact with them, ask them questions. And of course, come 5 o'clock that evening, we'll have the Hall of Fame induction. A couple of awards will be given out. And then, of course, at 7 o'clock, the big SICW card, and it's a big card.
So you can get there at 10 a.m. and there's enough to keep you busy till well after 10 p.m.
Exactly. You know, come early, stay late, and just enjoy what SICW is going to be bringing to you that day.
Absolutely. And fans, the way you can guarantee you're going to be able to join us is you visit SICW.org and get those tickets now. Tickets are selling fast for this event. We want everybody to get that opportunity to join us. So SICW.org to get those tickets. Herb, when we talked about some of the legends coming up, a couple gentlemen have sent in some promos about it. A good friend of SICW, Enzo, and also Bobby Fulton.
Yeah, well, and what's really been good about this is all of these legends have been supportive of it. Some of them has had the time to do that, so we've got a couple of them right now we need to play for the fans.
Let's take a look at those.
Well, what do we got over here? Bada boom, realest one in the room. How you doing? And the St. Louis Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame and FanFest, May 13th from the Aviator Ballroom. How you doing? Bada boom, realest guy in a ballroom. I'm gonna be there. Be there, be square, long hair, don't care. I got winning streaks in my dirty underwears. What we talking about? I might have to get in the ring while I'm out there. Bada bing, realest guy in a ring. But in the meantime, make sure you're there at the FanFest Aviator Ballroom, like I says, okay, St. Louis, Missouri. All right? Aviator Ballroom, 10 a.m. Be there. How you doing?
Hey, wrestling fans around the world and in the greater St. Louis area. This is Bobby Fulton of the wrestling tag team, The Fantastics, and I'm looking forward to coming to St. Louis after a long, long time on Saturday, May the 13th. When I think of the history of St. Louis wrestling, I can't help to think about the late great promoter Sam Muchnick. Also, another friend of mine, the late great promoter and announcer Larry Matisak. Now, my great friend Herb Simmons does an outstanding job and has taken on the banner that the other two great men left behind. Saturday, May the 13th, it's going to be a great big extravaganza. I'm just one of many of the great names that's going to be there. The biggest SICW FanFest ever in the history of St. Louis and Bruiser Brody Memorial. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of old friends, meeting a lot of new friends, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Saturday, May the 13th. St. Louis, here I come.
Herb, great message from some great legends.
Well, that's what I said. It's great that all these legends are supporting this. They're wanting to come and meet all the great fans of SICW. Some of them haven't been back to St. Louis in many, many years, so it's kind of like a homecoming to them.
Absolutely. And talk about a homecoming. Somebody coming back near and dear to St. Louis, Darla Staggs.
Darla, you know, dear Darla, great friend of not only of the wrestling, but of SICW. And we are so honored to have her back. And Darla is making the trip back in. She is going to be receiving the Sam Muchnick Award this year. And I'm so excited for her. You know, we've told that story. She had attended her first match in 1959, and people say, wait a minute, look at her, she's not that old. Well, when she attended that match at the Kiel Auditorium, it was 1959 when Pat O'Connor was taking on Dick Hutton for the NWA title. Darla was a small baby, and her father was holding her in his arms, and that story's been told quite a few times now, and it's definitely great to have Darla come back, and it's really an honor that she's receiving the Sam Muchnick Award this year.
Absolutely, Herb. It's going to be a great time. And one of the big things that you talked about is going to happen that night is the Hall of Fame induction. And we've got a great video to show you here that kind of talks a little bit about what to expect from that induction Hall of Fame ceremony.
The St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame is proud to announce our 2023 induction ceremony, Saturday, May 13th in St. Louis, Missouri. Our class of 2023 legends include Gerald Briscoe, induction by John Bradshaw Layfield, plus the legendary J.J. Dillon. Saturday, May 13th at the Aviator Hotel as part of the giant SICW FanFest weekend. The St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Herb, how about that? St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame inducting some great legends to join a already great group of wrestlers. But let's start off talking about none other than Jerry Briscoe.
Jerry Briscoe, one of the greatest of all time. I'm proud to call him a great friend and very deserving of him going into the class of 2023 to join his late brother Jack Briscoe, who was the greatest of all time. So to have the Briscoe brothers finally being in there together is just, I think, an honor for the St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame, and I'm really excited. And to really make that more of a treat, what about JBL coming in to make the induction for Jerry Briscoe?
Absolutely. I mean, two great friends of each other, and it's great that JBL can be joining us to induct his good friend Jerry Briscoe into the St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Exactly, and you know, there you see they are two great friends there, and the St. Louis fans ought to be just thankful that they're going to be there together in the same building. You know, you got to meet JBL, and you've met Jerry before when we've had him in, so it's really a treat to have them both in, and I'm really looking forward to having them there.
Absolutely, and Herb, the other gentleman being inducted that night, you've got the honor of doing the induction, and that is the leader of the Four Horsemen, J.J. Dillon.
Oh yeah, it's such an honor. As daughter of Pam, another sweet individual, asked if I would do the honors of inducting J.J., who is just another one of those all-time legends that has been everywhere and done it all. Like you said, ended up in his career being the leader of the Four Horsemen, and I'm just really, I could stay there all night and talk about J.J. Dillon, but yeah, to be asked to do that is really an honor for me, and to be able to share the ring with these individuals is just like no other feeling there is. So it's going to be a great Hall of Fame.
It is going to be a great night to remember for not only for St. Louis Wrestling, but for SICW Wrestling, the organization that's keeping the memory of Wrestling at the Chase alive, and keeping the memory that would have been 64 years old this year, what was created by the great Sam Muchnick.
Yeah, the memories we keep saying each year, and as you said, this is the 64th year. You know, it started on television in 1959, and you know, there you see the greatest promoter of all time, Sam Muchnick. And of course, you know, you can't mention Sam, what's his name, without mentioning Larry Matisek and Mickey Garagiola and his brother Joe Garagiola, who was the first play-by-play announcer. And that's what we do here at SICW, keeping those memories alive. And I think May 13th, you'll see that as we have some of those classic matches that are playing. And it's just, it's a way we're keeping those memories alive and keeping the legacy of Wrestling at the Chase alive.
Absolutely. And Herb, when we talk about wrestlers that wrestled back during Wrestling at the Chase, name might have been pronounced a little different back then, but a good friend of SICW, Ted DiBiase, is going to be joining us, and he sent in a little promo discussing his return to St. Louis. Let's take a look at that now.
Hey, wrestling fans, Ted DiBiase here, and I'm coming to St. Louis, Missouri on Saturday, May the 13th, to see my good friend Herb Simmons and all the great wrestling fans. St. Louis has and will always be special to me. Sam Muchnick and Larry Matisek knew what the fans enjoyed, and now Herb is bringing the largest fan fest ever to St. Louis. I hope you will all come out. Go to SICW.org. That's SICW.org for more information and order your tickets now. After all, everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man. Hope this.
Herb, everybody's got a price.
Everybody's got a price, and you know, that's an individual that is always there whenever I call him. You know, he's told me time and time again, and I've heard him tell other people that, you know, there is no Ted DiBiase or DiBiase, however you want to pronounce it. He doesn't care. But he'll tell you there is neither one of them or the $1 Million Man without St. Louis. St. Louis is what put him on the map, and that's why he wanted to come back and be a part of this FanFest, because he loves St. Louis.
Absolutely. And you talk about another fan of the St. Louis area, another good friend of SICW, Teddy Long.
Oh, Teddy Long, a holla player. As you hear him say, that's kind of his trademark. He sent us a promo in, and I think it's got played quite a bit, and so we're going to let some of the fans who may be tuning in tonight to see it.
Let's take a look at that now.
What's up, players? WWE Hall of Famer Teddy Long. And on May the 13th, I'm going to be in St. Louis, Missouri at the Aviator Hotel for one of the biggest wrestling events in the history of professional wrestling in St. Louis. It's going to be the annual Bruiser Brody Memorial. Also, we'll be doing inductees for the St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame. Now, two of those inductees I do know. One is going to be Jerry Briscoe. The other one is going to be the legendary manager James J. Dillon, and many, many more. Also, we will be celebrating 64 years of wrestling at the Chase Auditorium in St. Louis. I've been there several times myself. Can't wait to get back on May the 13th for a big fan fest. Wrestling St. Louis Hall of Fame, also the Bruiser Brody Memorial. A lot of things happening there at the Aviator Hotel on May the 13th. I'll be there along with my co-host, Mac Davis, for our After Hours Road Trip podcast. We'll see you there, May the 13th, St. Louis. Holla, players.
Another great professional in Teddy Long. Great to have him joining us this Saturday, May 13th at the Aviator Hotel and Ballroom. Fans, we've told you a lot about what's coming up this Saturday, May 13th at the Aviator Hotel, 6921 South Lindbergh in St. Louis, Missouri. And it's taken a lot of great things to make that happen, and some of those include our sponsors. So let's take a moment to hear from a couple more of our sponsors about the big event coming up on May 13th. Wrestling fans, you looking for the best in daily lunch specials and great menu food items? Look no further than Layla's Roadhouse, 440 Falling Springs Road in Cahokia Heights, Illinois. That's right, a family sit-down dining and always great specials. Also has the best pizza in the area. Layla's is a proud sponsor of the SICW FanFest, being held Saturday, May 13th at the Aviator Hotel in South St. Louis at 55 in Lindbergh. Go to SICW.org for information on how to purchase tickets for this huge SICW event. Trainwreck Coffee Express at 200 South Main Street in Dupo, Illinois. The place to start your day with that nice hot cup of coffee. Several different flavors to choose from and some great donuts to go along with it. Check out the Trainwreck Coffee Express in Dupo, Illinois. Well, fans, earlier tonight you got to see a glimpse of a great match from 1983 when Bruiser Brody was battling against Ric Flair in St. Louis. Herb, should we let him see how it ends?
Oh, great. Anytime those two individuals battled, it was worth seeing over and over again. So I'm ready for it.
All right. Fans, let's take a look at how that match finished back in 1983.
Ends the second fall as Brody is counted out outside the ring. One fall apiece. One fall apiece. Brody knows what he has to do. He needs to win this fall to become the World Heavyweight Champion. He needs this fall. Flair, he'd like a win. He'd like a pin. But he's settled for staying alive, too, because he still have the gold belt. He takes a few more of those forearms in the head, though. He won't be staying anywhere except in an ambulance on a ride to the hospital. Brody, with his boot underneath the jaw, digging on Ric Flair, the world champion. Flair, soaked, exhausted, but he was able to come up with that big fall that he desperately needed to tie this match at one fall apiece. Brody again, trying to punish the windpipe of Ric Flair. Flair, gasping, but he's still staying by the ropes. Brody wants to get him out of that corner, but he wants to punish him too. King Kong Brody in that position now where you want to do 20 different things at the same time. You want to slam him, you want to pull him, you want to punch him, you want to kick him, you want to get him in the middle, you want to strangle him over the ropes. The hardest part now is controlling yourself mentally, emotionally. That crowd screaming, wanting more, wanting to see the title change. It's funny. Even when the world champion was a popular figure, in the days of a Luthez, of a Pat O'Connor, of a Dory Funk Jr., there came a time when everybody wants to see that title change. It didn't happen very often back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Not like today where it happens every other week. So it meant something. It meant something. Dory Funk Jr. had a 4.5-year reign as the world heavyweight champion. Harley Race had a 4-year reign as the world heavyweight champion. Jack Briscoe had the title over 2 years. It meant something when the belt changed hands. And St. Louis, over the years, was blessed by seeing many title changes. I guess the last two before that were Kiniski over Thez, and then in 1959, Pat O'Connor over Dick Hutton. Flair pitches Brody to the ropes. Flying tackle. Good bounce there. Here comes Brody again. Flair looking for the sleeper hold, something he never was really known for, but something he knew the rudiments of, the basics of. Anything right now to slow down Brody, to eat up some time. That's what Ric Flair wanted. He squeezes with the sleeper hold. He squeezes with the sleeper hold. If he can get the right leverage and put Brody out, all the better. But this has a twofold purpose for a cagey ring general like Ric Flair. Flair with that sleeper, trying to take away from the clock, trying to take away from what's left of the energy of King Kong Brody. After this match, Brody told me, he told me it was 3 days till he felt like a human being. He says every muscle hurt the next morning. He says, and I know Flair felt the same way. And Lee Warren said, I lost close to 10 pounds sweating in that ring, jumping up and down, belly down, trying to count, trying to stay on top of the action, and trying not to get trampled by these two guys. Brody leaning forward. Look how Flair, look where that shoulder is. Pushing into the head, pushing the chin down. Once again, we talk about the subtle little movements in wrestling, trying to take the ability to breathe away from your opponent. Ric Flair is doing that without a strangle. The real pressure is on the side of the neck, just where a sleeper hold should be, trying to cut the blood flow off. Of course, Brody's neck was about as big as a telephone pole, so that's not the easiest thing to do. Flair with the sleeper hold. Brody still very much in it, but feeling some of the effects. Trying to keep the blood flow right there, just moving his hands, moving his arms, trying to keep alive, knowing he has to break out of this. He needs this fall. He needs this fall, and there's one way to do it. He ran towards the corner and ran Flair right into the top turnbuckle. Flair hung on to the last second when he realized that the superior weight of Brody was pulling him towards the corner. It was almost too late to move. But he still has the advantage. Flying mare by Ric Flair. Staggers to the corner. Goes for an elbow drop that misses. The elbow drop misses by Flair. Is this Brody's opening? Flair coming up quickly, though. Misses with a roundhouse, and then it's Brody trying to squeeze the head of Flair. I don't know how much Brody knew about the sleeper hold, but he knew if you squeeze a man's blood supply to his brain, you might be able to make him pass out. And basically, he's just squeezing the neck as hard as he can right there. It's brutish, it's powerful, but it's effective as Brody squeezes the neck of Ric Flair, and Flair goes down to one knee. Maybe he can get on top of him. Maybe he can wear him down. You look back at some of the great title matches over history, sometimes they ended on very quick pins on things that people would never have expected. Just very simple things, body press, if they could catch the right leverage and catch the right moment. Now you're looking at a match that's gone 50 minutes, well over 50 minutes they've been in that ring. Let me tell you, nobody's ready to go out dancing right now. Brody on top of him, trying to push the shoulders down, and Ric Flair. So smart. Saw that rope there, let Brody feel good about it, and then Ric Flair drops his boot on the bottom rope, and Lee Warren has to call for a break. Brody rolls away from Flair. If they respected each other before they were in the ring against each other, how much respect do you think they had for each other after they knocked heads for almost an hour? Ric Flair and King Kong Brody. Flair trying to get his wind back. Brody trying to make that brain click, click, click. What can I do? What can I do to break this man? What can I do to knock him off the throne? Again, basic hard wrestling, body slam. One more time, trying to wear Flair down. Lining him up. Oh, going for the leg drop, the guillotine leg drop rather than the big knee drop. That probably says something right there that Brody didn't go for the knee drop. He went for the guillotine leg drop. Flair goes for the figure four. Flair going for the figure four leg lock on King Kong Brody because he realized when Brody didn't go for the knee drop, that meant his knee was hurting. He's vulnerable, and Ric Flair knew it. Flair right to the figure four leg lock. When Brody didn't go for the flying knee drop, Ric Flair, so smart, he realized that King Kong Brody's knee was vulnerable, and here's Flair with the figure four leg lock. Can he get a submission out of King Kong Brody? Can he put enough pain to make Brody lean back? Maybe let his shoulders inadvertently fall on the mat for a 3 count. Flair stretching, straining, trying to do everything he can to the ligaments, the meniscus, and King Kong Brody's knee, but now Brody trying to roll Flair over. Brody trying to reverse it. King Kong Brody reversing the figure four leg lock. Can he take it over? Yes. And puts the pressure on Ric Flair. The pressure on Flair as Brody puts all that pressure into the leg of Ric Flair before Flair pops out of the hold, and now both men a little gimpy after the figure four leg lock. Reversed and in its original position has taken a toll on both Flair and Brody. Flair coming up on top of Brody and begins pounding on the head of King Kong Brody. Brody says, I can play that game better than any man alive. King Kong Brody on his feet, raining forearms down on the head of Flair, going for the pile driver. He couldn't get it before. Can he get the pile driver on Ric Flair this time? Yes, he's got him in the air. Look out below as Brody with the pile driver. Oh, ramming the neck and head of Flair into the mat, making sure he had all the leverage in the world as he tried to knock Flair's head right down into his shoulders. This could be it. The count of 1, count of 2, and no. Flair with his boot across the bottom rope. Brody sees it. He knows it. It was a good call. Here he finally got that pile driver, which he tried once earlier in the match, and Flair was able to scoot to the ropes. Elbow drop. Not something you often saw from Brody, but it's desperation time now. Desperation time now, and Brody taking any chance he can. Throwing that elbow and missing. Both men having trouble coming to their feet, trying to find a way. Flair with a chop. Arm whip, Brody to the ropes, ducks, comes off, big boot right to the face of Ric Flair. Brody coming off with that signature big kick to the face, another kick right to the solar plexus by Brody. Brody whipping him to the ropes, another boot to the head, and Flair is down. Is he down for the count? Look at him fight. Look at him struggle to come back up after all that punishment from King Kong Brody. One more body slam. No, a backbreaker. A backbreaker. Shades of Gene Kiniski. The backbreaker beautifully delivered by Brody. Not even realizing where he is now. They're close to the ropes. Flair didn't know he was that close either, and he kicked out, not knowing he could have taken the easy way out. There's no room for error here. Flair looking maybe he could come down from the top on Brody, who came to his feet slowly, but Brody's there waiting. Brody's there waiting with Flair. Sailing through the sky inside the Checker Dome, it's Ric Flair, compliments of King Kong Brody. Big forearm to the face. Brody leery of going for that knee drop. Think back to that missed knee drop earlier and what a key part of the match that was. Brody obviously had hurt his knee, and he was leery of going for the giant knee drop anymore, especially after the figure four leg lock. Flair was able to take one of the signature moves away from King Kong Brody. Brody going for the suplex on Flair. Time running out. Brody going for the suplex. He has him up in the air. Drives him down. Drives him down with the suplex. Going for the pin. Can he get there? Can he get there? No, the referee, the bell has sounded. The bell has sounded. 1 hour has expired as Flair and Brody went at each other, hammer and tong. And here it is.
The 1 hour time limit expired with each man having won a fall. The match between King Kong Brody and Ric Flair is a draw. And Ric Flair retains the World Heavyweight title.
Herb, what a match.
What a match. I mean, two of the all-time greats. And, of course, you know, You don't have to say about Ric Flair. Everybody knows that. In the same way with Bruiser Brody or King Kong Brody, whatever territory he worked in, whatever name he was. But here in St. Louis, he was both. I mean, he was a king and he was a bruiser, believe me.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, Herb, it wouldn't be appropriate for us to wrap up tonight without talking about a couple of the big matches that you have signed for May 13th at the Aviator Hotel. The first one being the Texas Death Match.
Well, the Texas Death Match, for the fans who follow SICW knows, this is going to be a all-out war. The champion, Attila Khan, whether you like him or not, this man takes no prisoners. I've seen him bleed buckets of blood over his years, his career. And of course, he's going up probably against one of the biggest challenge of his career in the Big Texan. And, to make that match even mean more, it's going to be a Texas Death Match. And when that stipulation was added to it, I reached out to Dory Funk Jr., whose father was the wrestler that invented the Texas Death Match back in 1959 and made the stipulations and what all the rules are. So we actually did an interview with Dory. I wanted the fans to understand what it was going to be like, but that's going to be for the Classic title that night on May 13th. So, I mean, that match alone is worth the price of admission.
Absolutely. And Herb, if it could get any bigger than that match, we've got the annual Bruiser Brody Battle Royal, where we will see, once again, Barbara Goodish is coming and going to crown the winner of that Battle Royal.
Well, and she's going to have her work cut out for her, because this one's got, right now, probably right at 30 wrestlers that will be in that ring, and everybody has got one thing on their mind. They want to be able to stand there at the end of that match and stand in the ring with the lovely Barbara Goodish and have her present that Bruiser Brody Trophy Cup to her. The last year winner, Bobby D. He talks and tells a story all the time about just that feeling of being in there with Barbara, knowing that he's going to represent that for a whole next year of being the winner of that. But there's 30, and I mean all shapes and sizes that are going to be in that ring. So many. I hope the ring holds all of them.
Well, let's hope it does. Wrestling fans, you've joined us for another great night of SICW All-Star Wrestling, coming to you from the new SICW Wrestling Studios. You need to visit www.sicw.org and get your tickets for the big FanFest and the Bruiser Brody, Larry Matisick, Tony Costa Memorial this Saturday, May 13th, at the Aviator Hotel and Ballroom in St. Louis, Missouri. We will be back with you next Sunday night with another episode of SICW Wrestling, but we hope to see all of you Saturday night at the Aviator Hotel. Thanks for joining us.